Good morning, everybody. It's the Wolf Pilot. What a beautiful, glorious morning. I'm about ready to depart and drive out toward Haltom City, and where today I'm going to be in the studio audience of Taking Off, or in the hangar on the Taking Off channel. We'll see you there.
Clear, bro!
I'm Jay Urish. Join me as I complete flight school and enter the fun and adventure-filled world of general aviation.
You are 1,000 miles from home. We feel as far as I can see. Both needing something from each other. Not knowing yet what that might be. Till she came to me one evening. Hot cup of coffee and a smile. In the dress that I was serving. She hadn't worn in quite a while. There was a difference in her laughter. There was a softness in her eyes. On the air there was a hunger. Even a boy I recognized.
Much later.
Patience and wonder. Then he sit down. The best thing that God ever made. Cowboys.
Here we are, folks, the studio where we're going to be filming in the hangar with Dan Milican and Christy Wong.
Just down the hall. Oops, watch out.
All right. Okay, let's get our slate in.
Out of the shot.
Slate in.
Yeah, no, I am just out of the intro shot. Sorry. Super confusing, I know.
All right, let's roll cameras. All right, let's mark it.
We're talking.
Mark.
Are we doing all our pilot?
No.
You all right?
PO office.
We'll take our opening ready.
That's right.
I have a question during this one. It's an emergency story. There was a crash.
Hey guys, so this is going to be a really interesting episode
The other ones haven't been, they've just been
where we are going to open it up for audience Q&A.
Enjoy your product.
Are you going to ask a question, Brian?
No, not an appropriate one.
Can we have him ask an inappropriate question? Anybody else?
Are you wearing lipstick?
I will. I was gonna say we've got
Were you wearing
Melinda here.
lipstick during
She'll take care of him.
I like what you say.
Goss more.
Yeah. Okay. This is not me. That's crazy. Season 4 is gonna be so different.
All right, cameras, let's go ahead and get our focus. Dan, calling Dan to set.
Milliken.
Yeah, just
There's too many Dans here right now.
Dan the man.
Damn talent over there when they want them.
Okay. Hi, Josh.
We
How'd you get here?
Hey, you can keep water here. No. We make sure that all of our guests are thoroughly dehydrated.
Dehydrated, yeah.
Sufficiently. No, you can keep it up there.
Product placement.
Yeah, there you go. We've got a Nestle. Yeah. They made me cover up my American Airlines thing to do all that.
Phone's on silent if you're new to the room.
Good.
Russell Royce here, and Robert Johnson.
The ferry pilot and the other here.
All right, everyone, sit back, please. Let's close the
Should be an
door.
episode or two away. I can tell you in a second. Door closed.
Alrighty. If you are sitting in these back chairs over there, that's actually for our crew. So if you could sit in the audience over here, that would be fantastic.
Yes, it would.
Come on up, we don't bite. They don't call you out, you just sit. Just sit in chairs. Alright, perfect. Let's get the slate in there. That's good. Alright, everybody on the slate? What'd you say? Okay, cool. Alright, thank you very much, Nisha. That's okay. I just don't want to. I don't want to talk wrong in it.
What does your t-shirt say?
Fly with the guys.
Alrighty, let's get this slate in.
Okay, yes.
I need everybody to sit.
Preferably over
You
there.
are back here. This is for the crew area, so if you can sit in the audience, please.
It's okay, we don't bite. Hard.
I do need people to sit on the far side, so please go over to the far side.
Over here. Let's sit over here. Very relatively warm seats. I think with Bryan Turner. Here.
Alright, great.
It's
All
always
cameras
funny
on
when you're
the slate,
videoing
please.
people videoing you.
Let's roll cameras. Alright, let's mark it. Thank you very much. Alright, let's get set for our opening.
What's the stat about Deer Valley? It is the biggest general aviation.
The busiest general aviation airport in the United States.
Face left.
Busiest general aviation.
Alright, face left. Alrighty, we are live in 5, 4, 3.
We're going to be talking to a guy who flies in the busiest general aviation airspace, let's just start with that.
Okay, we'll go a little faster. Face left.
Because I did my first sister.
We're live in 5, 4, 3.
The busiest GA airport in the country. We're going to talk to a guy who flies out of there regularly in the hangar. Hello, I'm Dan Milican, and you're watching In the Hangar, brought to you by Wingfield Aviation. Check them out if you want quality and transparent service for your aircraft. We are here today to talk about flying into busy general aviation airports and the tricks and tips. And we've got a couple of guys here who are phenomenal about that. And let's start with Carl Hancock. Carl, thanks for being here with us.
Yeah.
Fly with the guys.
Yes.
You are out of which airport?
Deer Valley Airport in Phoenix, Arizona.
Deer Valley, and it's kind of small, hardly any traffic.
Hardly any traffic. Wow. So last year we had over 456,000 operations.
Wow.
Now, just to put that into perspective, Phoenix Sky Harbor only had 438,000.
So it was more than Sky Harbor.
Correct, which is an international airport.
Wow.
So,
Wow. And then Josh Flowers. Josh is coming back
Yeah,
on the
good
show.
to be back.
And Josh, you've had some experience with GA.
I have just a couple, maybe some frowned upon experiences, but yes, I have.
All right. Okay. So Carl, in talking about flying as private pilots in these busy GA airports, did you learn to fly there?
I did. That is where I took all of my training. So,
Do you think that hurt or helped? Did it lengthen out your training, or did it kind of like throw you into the fire?
well, let me back up to when I started, and I took
Okay.
my discovery flight out of there. And you're all excited. I want to learn to fly. Going to go on this discovery flight. It's going to be great. And then your brain explodes because the radio won't shut up. It's absolutely insane. So moving forward, did it extend anything? No, because that was normal to me. That was my fire that I was thrown into. And so I just picked it up about midway through, I think, just like anybody else. But it definitely took a high level of listening and trying to understand because, man, they talk fast there.
Well, I guess it's towered.
Yes.
Is that a class? I guess not a Class C because it's under the Class B of the Sky Harbor.
Yeah, so it's Class D airspace, just right under Sky Harbor. There's a couple thousand feet between us and the Class B airspace, but everywhere I fly inside of the Phoenix area is under the Class B.
Why is Deer Valley so busy?
Well, first off, we have over 1,100 aircraft. Now, that's
On the airport.
on the premises, and that statistic is old. That's probably 2016, and it's only grown since then, just like the number of operations. The flight schools each have, say, 40 to 50 aircraft each.
Wow.
And, I mean, tons of hangars, tons of tie-down aircraft. It's just a very busy place. And the flight schools, they help contribute to how busy it is, but there's tons of just regular operations happening out there every day as well.
Wow, a couple schools with 40 to 50. That's just phenomenal. I didn't realize Phoenix was such a hotbed for pilot training.
I didn't either. It was a surprise.
You got Mesa Gateway and Falcon Field and all that around there too, and those are pretty hot airports too for training.
They
You
are.
go into any of those and there's just students everywhere.
It's typical. We have several practice areas with their own frequencies, actually. And you can go out there, and it's insane. It's like a beehive of activity all around Phoenix with training aircraft.
Oh, that's pretty cool that they'd have practice areas with their own frequencies. I've often thought that as I was doing my training outside of Fort Worth, that would be cool because we kind of had what we called our playground. Is that an FAA thing, or is it just kind of like all the schools say, okay, we're going to be talking on this frequency?
It's unpublished, and I'm not sure about the details on it. What was interesting is when I started flying with ForeFlight, we all got this little overlay that showed us all the practice areas, the frequencies, the call-out points. Yeah, and so it's just a little custom template that everyone just gives each other. So.
Oh, that you can, okay. That's interesting. For Deer Valley, what are the runways? Are they nice, long, wide? Is it just one runway? Is there several?
Ooh, now you're testing my skills. One's over 8,000 feet.
Okay.
I know that. That would be our south runway. And that's the busiest runway. That gets most of the traffic. Both schools are on the south side. So, and then the north runway is, I want to say 5,000 something feet. Someone's going to quote me on it, and I'm going to be wrong. But
So they're parallel?
They are parallel.
Okay. So just two runways, a nice big long one. So it sounds like Meacham in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's nice actually, but kind of scary at the same time when you're going to be turning from base to final and you got two airplanes coming like this.
Don't overshoot.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So for a pilot out there listening, a student pilot, what would you give as, and I'll ask you both this, what would you give as your best advice for operating in a busy GA airport?
Well, there's a couple of things. You know, we've always had ADS-B, and a lot of the aircraft inside of the airport are early adopters to that, just because if you are flying in there and you look on your ForeFlight, everything's normal, and then you just see this beehive of activity in this little spot. So your head has to be on a swivel, but at the same time, you have to be super aware of what's going on. It's not uncommon for each side of the pattern to have 10 aircraft in it at once. And there's been so, even on my check ride, I was told, remain outside Class Delta.
Oh, wow.
Because it is so busy that sometimes they just can't accept any more people. And they'll deny sometimes touch and goes. You have to go full stop and go, just because it can get so crazy.
Wow. Josh, what would you recommend to a student pilot out there?
I would say that the most important thing is proficiency. If you go into a busy environment and you haven't flown in a month or a month and a half or whatever, or it's a new airplane or anything like that, you're going to get behind the airplane so fast, and it's just going to turn into a really bad situation. But if you're proficient and you're used to flying, you've been flying real often, and you can keep up with the radios and everything, that's the most important thing. And that became apparent to me maybe like a couple of years ago. I just had a bit of time, maybe it was like 2 months, where I really only flew a couple times, and then I had to come up here to Dallas Love to do, meet with somebody real close to the airport. And just getting into the Bravo airspace, I had felt overwhelmed for the first time in years.
Oh, wow.
And I said, wow, I'm in an airplane that I'm very used to, and an airspace that I've gone into a million times, and an airport I've gone into a million times. But I'm not proficient. I haven't flown very much in the last couple of months, and it just kind of slapped me across the face. I realized, oh, wow, that would have been good to maybe take the last week and just, go up every evening or something and just talk to ATC and kind of get back in the groove of things. So proficiency, I think, is the key with dealing with busy airspace.
And I was going to say, too, that being familiar with the airport, anywhere that you're going to, is super, super important. Yes, we're supposed to have that up whenever we're taking off and landing our taxi diagrams. But knowing what's going on the ground is just as important inside of the air, because it's just busy everywhere. I have a picture of me coming in on final, and I looked over at the south runway, and there was 15 planes waiting and ready to take off. And that is just, the tower's got to be like a huge director of everything that's going on. And so just always being alert, and don't let anything distract you.
And recently I was just at Falcon Field in the 172, and on the topic of being alert and kind of looking around you and knowing what's around, I was holding short of the runway, and I take forever to do my pre-takeoff checklist, and I verbally briefed the abort plan and all that kind of stuff, and I was taking forever, and Tower called and said, who's holding short of runway 22 left? And I kind of looked up and I said, well, that would be me. And I keyed up and I said, that's 80991. And I looked over my shoulder and there were like 8 flight school airplanes. And I said, oh crap, they're actually waiting on me. So I mean, it was kind of a funny exchange, and I just told Tower, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it. I just, kind of sidestepped and let the flight school airplanes go. But an unfamiliar airport like that, I didn't know that it was kind of like a tight area, and I just didn't even think about it, that there's going to be a very high frequency of flight school airplanes wanting to go.
Where's Falcon Field?
Falcon Field's on the east side of Phoenix. So Deer Valley, is it like northwest?
From Sky Harbor, north, yeah, just a little bit west.
Okay, yeah. So Falcon is another delta kind of on the east side of Sky Harbor, underneath Bravo. It's not as busy as Deer Valley, but it's got a lot of flight school traffic.
Yep.
All right, so Carl, tell us a little bit about yourself. And are you fairly new with aviation?
I am. Well, yes and no. So I was introduced to it reintroduced. As a kid, I was a fanatic.
Right.
But in 2015, I was reintroduced to it by a good friend. I went with my son on a scouting excursion, and we went and saw an airplane. And that just kind of reignited the whole fire. And through that experience, I went on Discovery Flight and started going flying with some friends that I had made. And but a 3-year journey later, I finally was able to get my certificate. And yes, in comparison to Josh here.
Wow, right.
I'm a Navy pilot. What are you talking about?
And what kind of plane do you fly right now?
I do fly a 172. I recently just started flying a Cardinal until its engine blew up on the ground.
Okay.
On the ground. That's going to be my next question.
Well, the Cardinal's so do you have your high performance complex?
This one's actually only 180 horse.
Oh, it's not. Okay,
yeah,
then it's probably not.
Yeah, they originally came with 150.
Right.
Also upgraded to 180s, and it's a different airplane to fly. And I can attest to the different aircraft, like this airplane wants to roll. Like you'll easily, the first time I turned, it moved so fast and I hit 45 degrees in the pattern, in a climb, and freaked out.
Oh.
Just
Probably
gonna
not,
back out.
yeah, not a good time to freak out.
But
yeah.
it happens so quickly, and it just, lets you know that different aircraft perform at completely different levels.
So are you going into instrument?
You know, I want to, and
But you don't need to in Arizona,
I don't feel like
right?
I need
There's
to.
no IMC ever there.
And it sounds silly, and everyone says instrument makes you a better pilot, but literally in Arizona, if there's a storm, you don't want to go flying in it.
Yeah.
Nobody's flying in it. So,
Well, what about other ratings and other? Where do you want to go with this?
where I want to go with this is I do want to get more. I want to have fun. I want to see different airplanes. I want to explore aviation. I love flying. I love airplanes just as much. And so I really want to get my tail wheel. I think that would be an incredibly fun experience.
You just recently did
I
that.
did, just a couple months ago.
Yeah, see, that's on my list to do in the next few months, and I just haven't gotten around to it. What did you think?
Oh, it definitely taught me that I don't know how to land an airplane. That was the first thing I noticed. And, the
One eternity later.
But anyway, okay, any final words? GA heavy traffic airports.
Be willing and able to communicate, and not just to student pilots, to rusty pilots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you understand, you know what's going to be talked about, what's going to happen. Don't just say, I'm going to get in the airplane, I'm going to fly into controlled airspace. Know what you're going to say, what you're going to respond to, and know the airport. And that's the best thing that you can do. It'll help you in what you're doing, especially over the radios.
Yeah, just do your homework, and if you're coming into a real busy airport, like Love, for example, Dallas Love, if you're coming in, whenever I come in, if I'm going to an FBO that I normally don't go to, or even if I'm going into the one that I'm used to, I always, before I leave, I look at the taxi diagram and I say, okay, if I land this runway, this is what I can expect. If I land this runway, this is what I can expect.
Exactly.
And then, of course, departing, I do the same thing before I even get in the plane. Okay, they're probably going to have me taxi out to this runway because that's what they're using, and just not necessarily just about taxi diagrams and stuff like that. Do your homework. It makes the process inside the airplane a lot less daunting because you've got a ton going on in that cockpit. As soon as that engine starts,
Yeah, you feel like a clock's, tick-tocking above
Right.
your head. Yeah. Well, very cool. Carl, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
It's great to meet you.
Yes.
Josh, as always.
absolutely.
And I appreciate you. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time in the hangar. And take care.
But if it's breakfast, then my favorite in my area is the Jet Room restaurant in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh,
It's a
nice.
restaurant inside the FBO building. They have the best eggs Benedict that I've ever tried, and I've tried a lot in a lot of different places. And if it's lunchtime or dinner, my favorite place near home is called Pilot Pete's in Schaumburg, Illinois. That's a suburb of Chicago. Also right in the terminal building. You go upstairs, you have a beautiful view of the flight line in both places.
Okay.
And they have the world famous pot roast. That's the name of the menu.
Pot roast.
To die for.
Joshua.
I think that's important to note. It depends on what meal I'm going for.
Yeah.
If it's breakfast or lunch, I love going to the Hangar
I was
Hotel.
about to say the hangar in
and,
Fredericksburg.
and Fredericksburg.
Tango 82.
Yeah, just like awesome biscuits and gravy. It's just amazing breakfast, and their lunches, burgers, and everything are really good for
Yeah.
lunch or dinner. Cooper's Barbecue in Llano. And I always land on the grass runway, get the old beat up Suburban, and drive into the mile that it is to the barbecue place. It's super, super good.
All right, Carl.
You guys are all going to hate me. My
McDonald's.
can't fly through there once again. My $100 hamburger is
20 minutes later.
Episode 1.
What happened, Brian?
So, Facebook, as you know, is very popular, and there's a lot of people on it. And people of different tolerances for humor go there. Some people from the FAA are on it.